today for our engineering technology STEM educator workshop. And my name is Jason Bruns. I'm the director of the Minnesota State Engineering Center of Excellence. And I just want you all to know that this will be recorded so then we can share that out to other people later on. So thank you very much for attending. I want to thank especially Dr. Leah Rue, with sharing her knowledge and insight on some information today, especially STEM related. And you can see there the 5 pillars of education and really how she looks at it. So I think she does a great job with it. I saw her present on this before, and I thought it's such an exciting opportunity for her to share this to the entire group. So a couple housekeeping items. I just want to let you know, attached to the agenda is a survey. And I would really like you to go ahead and fill out that survey on that agenda after the event, of course. This is the only way that we can go ahead and make things better. We can get better with what we do and really maybe address some of the things that you'll be looking for in the future as well. So again, the video will be available on our website. If you're looking for professional development and you need professional development, you can contact me directly, and then I will create that form and send it off to you. So if you need those professional development hours based on this opportunity, this presentation, you can email me at jason.bruns@mnsu.edu. That also should be in the agenda, and I'll throw the agenda a couple times into the chat as well. So thank you all again very much. I want to let you know throughout the presentation, I already discussed with Dr. Rue, that if you have questions, you can throw them into the chat or you can speak up. We'll do whatever we can. I think there's a lot to say about the dynamics of the interaction between the speaker and maybe that question right then and there that you have, right? I'm not so good at remembering stuff at the very end, and for some reason then I forget what it's associated with. So please, let's make sure this is interactive. We can learn a little bit from each other, and let's make sure that we can get the information that that you're looking for, and actually maybe even some insight that you might have as well. There are probably some other experiences that you have that you can share to the team as well. This is all about growth and sharing knowledge, nothing more than that. So I'd like to introduce our speaker today. It's Dr. Leah Rue, is an associate professor in construction management at Minnesota State University, Mankato. Dr. Rue is passionate about education, process improvement, creating pathways to recognize learning both in and out of the classroom, using technology to promote learning in community, diversity, equity, and inclusion within the built environment, and connecting students to their local economy. In 2018, she founded the local chapter of the ACE membership program of Southern Minnesota for area high school students to learn from industry experts about architecture, construction, and engineering. So with that, I'm going to let Dr. Rue go ahead and talk about her 5 pillars of education: industry involvement, project-based learning, global citizenship, entrepreneurship, and service learning. So Dr. Rue, I will fly flank for you and support some of the chat and let people in. And should there be any concerns or questions, please feel free to reach out.
Wonderful. All right. Assuming that you can hear me, I am enjoying my view from home today. I actually live in Belle Plaine, Minnesota. For those of you that know where Belle Plaine is, that is where I am today. A show of hands, who else is skipping class today? Can I say that? Can I say I'm skipping class today? Right now, let's see. Not yet. I'm not skipping class until 11 o'clock today. So thank you, Jason, for the introduction. Just to recap a little bit, if you do have a question, like Jason said, this isn't my favorite method of chatting with people. Zoom served a purpose, and it serves a purpose today to connect all of us, but keeping things interactive is really what I would hope that we could do. So other part of that is if you are available and you would like to turn your screen on, that would be amazing as well. Although now that I think about it, if I'm in my PowerPoint, I can't actually see you either way. So it's like I'm presenting to my PowerPoint at this point in time. So again, thanks for joining us. I am Dr. Leah Rue, construction management faculty. I am going to go over my 5 pillars. So just a quick overview here. Educational pillars. So as Jason said, there they are. I won't read them to you again. I do want to touch a little bit on just that solid foundation. If we talk about the pillars being these 5 things, the solid foundation really is that student who is fully developed, vibrant, self-engaged, and a participant within their community. So I wanted to make sure I highlighted that. And then after I get through those, I'm going to actually pause for a second and hope to allow each of us to a chance to maybe chat with each other in a little breakout room to talk about the educational pillar that maybe resonated with them, something either that you're already doing within your own class that has to do with one or more of the pillars, or something that you would really like to do, just a chance to connect with each other. I know that professional development for me doesn't necessarily mean being talked at for an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes. It really does, it's a chance to connect with each other too. So again, once I go through the pillars, I'll pause, we'll get into a little bit of a breakout room, and then I'll come back and just offer you some of the resources and examples for each pillar. I did have to go and try to do my homework. K-12 resources are different than university resources, or at least they can be. So I tried to make sense of it. But again, the resources that I might use at the university level would be different for each of us, right? So if there's examples or resources that you're using, we can maybe chime in and share that with the group as well. So again, pop in, ask questions. If you prefer to put it in the chat, I've asked Jason to kind of monitor the chat, and he'll pop in with those questions as well. So whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, so I like to start with a little bit of humanity, and humanity to me means myself in a pink dress at about the age of 8, my sister to the right of me, and then my cousin to the left of me. When I teach a lot of first-year university students, and I think they have a problem seeing me as a human and not just a professor. So I like to share a little bit about who I am with them, and sometimes it's fun to show a little icebreaker or bring in an artifact for them or wear something silly. My grandmother had a collection of aprons when I was growing up, and maybe I'll wear an apron into the classroom. That was something that my grandma loved to do. So again, just kind of bringing that in. How would I describe myself? I would basically call myself an accidental educator. In high school, the one thing I really wanted to be was independent. And part of what that meant to me is finding my way through education and finding an education. So I started out with a 2-year degree because thinking about more than 2 years as a high school student was more than I was able to do. So I do have a 2-year degree from Dunwoody. I went back and I kept going back. I have a 4-year degree from Bemidji State University, a master's degree in technical education from Stout, and then my PhD is from the University of Minnesota. I remember going back to my high school years after I had graduated, and I was enrolled at the U of M in my PhD program, and I saw my high school principal, and he was baffled that I had chosen the route to higher education. He remembered me, and I don't know if it was for good reasons. So those troublemakers that are in your class right now, there are probably maybe a few, hopefully just a few. Consider me as one of those. So whatever that does for you as far as treating them and helping to foster that. As Jason mentioned a couple years back, I had actually volunteered with the ACE Mentor Program, Architecture, Construction, Engineering. That's what the ACE stands for up in the Twin Cities. It's a national program. We have, again, up in Twin Cities is an affiliate, and then I loved volunteering and I loved the connection between students and industry. So I started the ACE Mentor Program of Southern Minnesota. We've been active for about 3 years now. And as you can imagine, year 1 was a lot of fun and a lot of work. Year 2 is supposed to get easier, although COVID snuck in there. Year 3, we've actually got a bunch of presenters coming in to Mankato West next week that are straight from the industry. So being able to bring those resources into the classroom is a big part of what I love to do on the side. The last thing I have in here is that kind of just, I'd love for all of us to think about what your most motivating educational experience has been. I've had more than a few years at university, and one of the things that resonates with me as one of my most motivating educational experiences is a trip up to Fond du Lac reservation. We spent the day up there working with local students, and I was helping them create fishing decoys. Fishing decoy, I don't think I knew what a fishing decoy, I love to fish, but I never used a decoy. I never did much for spearing or things like that. But that was one of the projects that we did when we were up there. And the connection between that curriculum and the students was very evident. They were all putting in extra effort because they were proud of the work that they were doing. And most of what they were doing was going to go back to a family member or a loved one as a gift. So being able to see that connection to their heritage, connection to their family was a really big deal. And again, kind of one of the most motivating experiences that I had, being able to create that curriculum that I can see the difference that it's making in the students' lives is a big part of what motivates me. All right. So pillar number one, entrepreneurship. There are a bunch of types of entrepreneurship. There is kind of a small business. So if you think about maybe going to your local vegetable stand, there's small, right? Kind of one-offs. There's also more of a scalable entrepreneurship model. And the one that I wanted to focus a little bit on today is more social entrepreneurship. And it's really pursuing novel applications that have potential to solve community-based problems. That to me speaks to the students, right? I've got a little headshot here of Samira Mita. She's a 10-year-old founder and CEO of Coder Bunnies. I brought her into this because she's a perfect example of what students can achieve. She saw a need within kind of her local community and now has created Coder Bunny, which is essentially a board game that teaches coding. And it's the first of its kind that really gears itself towards young girls in a male-dominated field. So props to her and a ton of fun. And entrepreneurship kind of bringing that full circle. Some of the reasons why I think entrepreneurship should be in our classrooms, financial literacy is a big one, right? So if they learn about how a company operates, they can take that knowledge into what it feels like for them to just be successful within their own lives. Pivoting and overcoming failure. If you have ever, I know some of you probably have small business experience. I have it more from the nonprofit side, but pivoting and overcoming failure is a huge part of that. We can't, functional fixedness, I'd done some research in functional fixedness as a PhD student. And if we can't create, so functional fixedness is essentially if I give you an item, so if I gave my toddler this mouse, she would find a million ways to play with this. And at some level, we teach out that creativity and we make it harder for them to essentially pivot and overcome failure. So that's kind of why I've got that one in here. It's a big, to make sure that they have those tools is huge. Leadership development, it comes naturally if you give them a role within the company and they are relied upon not only by you as kind of their guide or their sage, also they are relied on within the class and their classmates. So here's some information I got from a survey from Junior Achievement. I think this was probably about 3 or 4 years old. 60% of teens are more interested in starting their own business than having a traditional job. That's a big number, 60%. So if we can introduce them to entrepreneurship, right? About 37% are interested in starting their own business. They cite social media influencers and celebrities as inspiration. I'm not even sure what that means, right? So wait, social media influencers? Yes, they are small business owners, and I don't know much about that. But it doesn't mean I couldn't create a project within my class where the students learn a little bit more about what that looks like. I can't even imagine even my parents or my grandparents thinking about who motivated them to maybe start a business. It wasn't social media. So this is brand new, right? 45% of them feel it's beneficial to hear about starting businesses from business owners. Okay. A couple other ones that I don't have kind of spelled out, but over on the right-hand side, I've got some stats from the Pew Research, and it is businesses owned by women and minorities. Basically, they're lagging in their share of revenue. So when I think about entrepreneurship and its ability to kind of even the playing field, this is what I think about, right? So men and women firms and revenue, the number of women that own firms is drastically less than men. And I want to apologize, but I have to pause for a quick second because my computer is not plugged in. So hold 1 second. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
I just want to let the team know that I threw the agenda into the chat as well. And at the end of the agenda, you'll see when our next event is. And also, again, just a reminder, there's a survey that's on there. And at the end of the Leah's presentation, Dr. Leah Rue's presentation, really look forward to go ahead and supplying some input and really some other ideas that we can get this better and continue to grow and provide some of this educational workshop information that you're looking for to help you in your classroom or help your school. So Dr. Rue, I'll bring it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was perfect. Of all the things that I organized here, I've got water, pen, paper. I'd put new batteries in my mouse. I didn't plug in my computer. So, all right. One more thing that I wanted to mention, and I think about it at the university level, and I think it's worth sharing, is that entrepreneurship is yes, it's teaching students about entrepreneurism for their own good. But the other part of it, and something that I think we're all struggling with, is we're continuously asked to do more with the same amount of resources, or we're continuously asked to do more with less resources. And there are examples of programs at the college and university level that have their students produce products that then bring some form of revenue back to the college or university. And I know that many K-12 high schools have stores, right? Whether it's a coffee shop or they sold candy bars and things back when I was a student. But bringing that full circle where we can potentially create an opportunity for students to learn and grow by doing and being part of a business entity that they've created, and then have that give back to creating more resources and opportunities for the next generation of students, I think is huge. And kind of another reason to think about putting it in if it isn't already in something that you're doing. All right, pillar number 2, project-based learning. So it means a lot to actively engage in real world projects, right? Personally meaningful projects. So I think about the number of projects I've gotten over the years or given over the years, and really tried to focus that on projects that the students are passionate about. And I know that makes some of us uncomfortable, not knowing, going into the beginning of a semester and really having a syllabus that says you've got project 1 and it doesn't have a topic, and it doesn't, has an outline of a rubric, because there's certain things, no matter what the project is, that have to be accompanied, but you don't necessarily know what the topic is because it should be meaningful to your students. So trying to balance those two things can make you feel off kilter when you start a semester. But I will say from experience that it is well worth it. And I'll talk a little bit more about my experience here in a second. Learn not by abstract definitions, but rather than learn by solving complex projects. I truly believe in that. Labor and service, they should be recognized as important aspects of this learning, right? What does it mean to serve? And is there some labor involved? The other part that I really love is that there's always a shared leadership model. So I have a lot of students that love individual work and they don't love group work. And I think it's because I haven't given them the tools to succeed in the group setting. So what's at the heart of why your group member is participating? What do they love most about the project? And how can they balance that with some of the other work that has to be done that maybe they're not as passionate about? So kind of that shared leadership model, not only between the students, but also between the faculty or the teacher and the students. I don't know more or less about the project and where the project is going to lead than they do. I'm kind of with them on it. So not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. You probably heard that before. I'm really with them, kind of guiding them. So there's some leadership that I'm modeling for them, but they're kind of part of a bigger group, right? I do have a quick little side note. ACE Mentor Program, like I said, that's one of that I've got personal investment in. But every year when that program starts, the national puts out essentially 3 projects that the team get to pick from, which is a ton of fun, and the projects change every year. So the students, one of the first things that we do when we get into the classroom is we present to them the 3 options. The students start to vote and kind of volley the idea of which of the 3 that they might like to take on. Yes, it's more work to create 3 different options, but it also really gives the students a little bit of a sense of ownership that they got to kind of pick and move forward on a certain topic. This one's kind of fun. These teams are challenged to address urgent need through design and construction that will help direct the flow of visitors. So again, humanitarian center or facility envisioned and created to handle multitude of needs while dealing with the difficulties of security, safety, language, gender, ages, varied times, and comfort of the influx of people. So it's a large project. It's project-based. Some might argue that project-based should really be in real time. So especially construction, when we think about construction and the discipline that I'm most familiar with, doing project-based learning in real time with an actual site is something that we strive to do, but that becomes pretty hard. So what level of project-based learning, what level of entrepreneurship is right for you? Because I don't want to make anybody feel like if they don't hit this level that what they're doing isn't enough. I will tell you, I started out very small and they kept moving forward. So it's just a little encouragement. Pillar 3, Global Citizenship Education, or GCED. This is creating a sense of belonging to a broader community and a common humanity, right? It emphasizes political, economic, social, cultural interdependency and interconnectedness between local, national, and global. I think this one is more tangible than ever, coming out of COVID, and it really emphasizing the interconnectedness between all of us, right? What I remember seeing on the news years ago was that there was, COVID, I don't know what the word was, happening, what felt like a world away. And it wasn't a world away. And something that happens over there can have such a great impact on what we do here. Really helps to bring home the idea of global citizenship. What I do can affect local, it can affect national, it can affect international or global. And helping students understand that is a big part of what global citizenship education brings to the table. Okay. I've got kind of 3 parts to it here. Cognitive, we're encouraging our students to acquire knowledge, understanding, and critical thinking about what's happening globally, right? And again, it's the interconnectedness and interdependency of the different countries and populations. I went to the grocery store in St. Peter last week, and I'm looking through the fruit and I'm thinking, how on earth did this banana come from this country? And then I look over at the organic bananas and they're from a different country, and I look at the oranges and they're from a different country. And again, supply chain, COVID, being in construction, supply chain issues have slowed down our field immensely, all right? And we've really taxed our project managers. How do we come up with creative solutions when the product you're trying to install isn't on site, right? That has to do with how we are connected globally. Okay. Socio-emotional sense of belonging to a common humanity. And again, the emphasis being on common humanity. We all share a planet, and that planet is getting smaller and smaller. Okay. Behavioral, to act effectively and responsibly at local, national, and global levels for a more peaceful and sustainable world. All right, so those are kind of the main pieces behind global citizenship. Okay. All right, pillar number 4, engaging industry. I feel like an expert in this. I'm an expert in this when it comes to what I do. So construction industry is very active in the curriculum we create, in the opportunities to engage in a professional level. So there's a myriad of professional organizations that my students can get involved with, be it free or at a lower reduced cost, right? This is one I do a lot. When I tried to think about how I can bend this to K-12, I got a little bit creative. So again, after I get through these 5 pillars, we'll pause for a second, get to know each other a little bit, and then I'll move into some of the examples that I came through. But of all the reasons that we should engage industry, I could have filled up this slide. But I think about the students and why they might want to do it. While some of our students are going to be true scholars and they want to learn for learning's sake, a lot of them are more practical. Like, what am I going to, why do I need this, right? They don't want to waste time and energy learning something they don't see as relevant to their lives. So if we can connect and engage with industry to help them understand that, while I want them to be able to express that they might think of it as a waste of time, it's also our job as educators to make sure that they know that if they are in the pursuit of growth and learning, that it is not a waste of time, right? We get to help them make their minds up around that. But again, we've got true scholars and students that really need a connection to the next step, right? They're on a lily pad, they want to jump to the next lily pad. Their lives are much more practical. All right. Service learning. All right. Service learning and community engagement soften the walls between the classroom and the community. We can challenge students' assumptions and connect them with broader systems, processes, and experiences beyond their own. I have a bit of a crush on the Mary Green marble, which you're seeing a picture of here on the bottom right. And in the very near future, I have I hope to have another sabbatical coming up at the university and a chance to really kind of connect and engage in some creative ways to think about service learning. Not only is this Mary Green marble service learning, but it's also project-based learning, it's community engagement, it's being a global citizen. So it kind of hits them all, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but Steve Lawless is the founder of the Mary Green marble. And he really focuses on relationships at the heart of what the Mary Green marble hopes to accomplish. Steve believes that taking the time to understand the histories and the concerns of the people that we're serving is critical to generating meaningful human connections. So service learning, getting out into your local, national, or even international communities, learning about the citizens that you are assisting, and really making those meaningful connections with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about Mary Green later. Okay. All right, like I said, the other thing that I wanted to make sure to do is talk about the foundation to the 5 pillars. I don't know that I love any of the terms that I hear around, is it soft skills? No, I think it's more than soft skills. It's about mental clarity, knowing yourself, creating students or guiding students towards lives that are meaningful and have a purpose beyond career development and job training. Yes, I am in construction management, and career development and job training is essentially what some would define my job as, but really I want to create students that are happy being themselves, right? That have a purpose and that can see themselves offering good in various circumstances. So this kind of the foundation is really thinking about the emotional health and the emotional intelligence of the students that we're hoping to take along on adventures of service learning or adventures of global citizenship. But we really have to make sure that we're starting at a starting point that makes sense for the students. Right? All right. Okay, I wanted to take a little bit of time today and have each of us connect with each other. I realize that some of you are in the classrooms every day and you might be skipping class like I am. I realize that some of you are coming from the university and you've got classrooms that you maybe you're skipping out on. Some of you might be in administration. You're all from all sides. So to participate in the conversation doesn't mean that you have to have your own classroom. Maybe something that I've talked about resonates with you. Of the 5 that I've brought up so far, thinking about your own education or you educating others. Share a little bit about yourself, maybe the work that you are incorporating or the work that you maybe have plans to incorporate. But I'd love to just take a chance to kind of get to know each other. To me, professional development doesn't happen in a bubble. It doesn't happen me just talking to people, right? So if you don't mind, I am going to take a second. I'm going to pop us into some breakout rooms. And again, I'm just kind of curious, interested in having you connect with each other based on the 5 pillars that I've shared with you. All right. So I'm going to stop share here. All right, so let's see, depending on how many people we have. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and create those breakout rooms. It is 11:03. I'm gonna give us about 15 minutes to kind of just connect with one another and talk about what it is that you're doing within your own classrooms or resources that you may be looking for. There isn't really a right or wrong about this conversation. When we come back, I'd love to have you share a little bit about, again, if you're willing to talk a little bit about what you're up to, or maybe what you learned from your breakout room. All right, so again, it's about 11:03. I'm going to call you back at just before 11:20. Jason, do you want to hop into
Go ahead and tell me.
room number 1?
I can hop into room number 1. Here I go.
Sounds good.
Next to kind of see what's happening.
Oh, okay, cool. Here's Jason and
Yeah, Jason Wenzel and all them.
yeah,
Hey,
he's
Oh, hey,
how we doing?
doing all right. How are you?
I am doing outstanding. Mohammed, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing great.
Good. And you're
How about
skipping
you?
class today too then?
No, I don't have class today, so so that's
Well,
why
that's good
I'm
timing.
not
How about
teaching
you,
a class. I have a class later today, but not now. So I felt let me join and just see what's going on.
Right, right. What class do you teach today?
So basically, that's a 101, Civ 101. It's
Okay.
a lab for Civ 101. So we're
All
just
right.
covering this Yeah, for Dr. Rochelle, he's on sabbatical.
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
you gotta pick up when they go on sabbatical then, right? It's
Yeah.
extra work. Well, good. Well, thanks for joining us today. The good thing is that the price is right on these events. So the hard part is trying to get everybody's timing in. Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm sorry, I'm kind of showed up a little late, so.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So I'm the principal of our secondary schools for intermediate 917. So we're as an intermediate district, there's two halves to it. There's the special ed side of it, where we have membership districts that funnel for the South Metro into multiple spaces and classes and things like that in multiple buildings. So there's about 7 principals total. I'm the only principal on the secondary side, so I support all the secondary education for alternative learning, so ALCs, and then we have a career in tech ed program as well. So we're on actually one of my sites is housed at a Dakota County Technical College.
Sure.
So we have a career in tech ed program. So I'm just trying to gather as much information and make as many connections as I can to support the need that we have. We have a super high enrollment, but I'm struggling to find staffing for certain pieces of it and trying to keep those processes moving forward. So
Yeah, it's been a challenge trying to find staffing, especially when industry is so strong. People get pulled, right? And they get.
yeah, I don't pay enough. I don't pay enough compared to what they
Well,
can make in the private sector. So,
I mean, that's always the challenge, right? And then you've got certain criteria that you have to satisfy as far as licensure that they have to have in order to facilitate what you're looking for too. So.
and I can, with my ALC standing, I can get out of field permissions. I can get innovative work force pieces. So there's a lot that's happening with MDE that supports us in that regard,
right.
to give us some doors to open those pieces. So yeah, it's a crazy journey, but we have such a high demand for our kiddos to do it. One is space and one is getting enough support to get the kiddos what they need when they're in our system, and that bridge into what you all do at the college level it's been the biggest barrier for us.
Right, and trying to make those connections. And as a center, I try to work with Mohammed and some of these other faculty to try to get what can we do to get your young people in line with what they're looking for a successful experience, right? Because at the end of the day, we all want young people to never feel like they work a day in their life. Isn't that the ultimate goal in life?
That is the ultimate goal, right? Yeah.
Right. So we never feel like we work a day in our lives. So 917 is which schools then? Is it Shakopee? Or
So they're part of our so we're in Dakota County, so they're part of our Dakota County superintendent panel. But we get a lot of kiddos like Farmington, Rosemount, Apple Valley, a few Egans are in there because Egan's huge, right? Lakeville. And then I have an annex location where I'm actually at right now in West St. Paul, where we feed from like Two Rivers, Simley, Inver Grove Heights, South St. Paul. So we kind of have a whole gamut of that southern metro that feed into us.
Yep.
And then a lot of my kiddos that come into the CTE side of it, we have a consortium that is DCTC, Randolph, Inver Grove Heights, South St. Paul, Rosemount, Farmington, and then some Lakeville. So we're with the consortium and our CTE, we're like we're the core, the center of it, and then we support out to the college and then the students and all those pieces. So it's an interesting web of connections based on grant funding and other pieces like that. So the CTE world and the secondary side is absolutely, I mean, it's very complex.
Right.
And I think we're losing our kiddos in it. So
right. And I am also seeing a lot of school districts going different directions when it comes to CTE. I look at White Bear Lake used to be very, very strong in their CTE program, if you might say, and they've been blowing it up and shifting out people. So it's odd. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know if it's a community thing, but it's been interesting. I haven't quite figured it out yet. So
yeah, I don't think anybody has, and we're constantly trying to I'm constantly trying to connect with colleges and get our kids and things and And the cool part about it is the state wants to give me lots of money to do it.
Yeah.
It's just for a while it's just now it hasn't been tracked, and I have people going rogue, and what is offered in schools versus what is offered in CTE. And then really what it is how can we give those, like, it's really our CTE should really look as that work seminar to get them into those next levels of college, that what, here's a snapshot, here's a little bit of a certification, here's something to get you like ingrained in it. So then those next steps into that college level is like, what you want to do, and you're dedicated into it. And we're struggling to get the right kiddos out of high school into our system. And that's a big goal of mine this year, is really just meeting with high schools, and y'all are sending the wrong message, right? Which is kind of similar to what you all are in when you're looking at the high schools too, is like, y'all are sending the wrong message. And how do we clean that up so people are aware and able to access it?
Yeah, better prepared for it. Yeah. I've been working with a lot of campuses I've got some curriculum that is Siemens curriculum that's all free. The guys that created Project Lead the Way were the ones were the ones that created this program from Siemens. And I've been working with, so it's all program-based, project-based, curriculum is free, teacher training's free, the whole thing is free. I think hopefully you've seen an email on that. And the conversations I have with the civil engineering, mechanical engineering, these engineering departments is really saying any young person that spends an entire year working on project-based learning curriculum are the ones that they want in their classroom. The vetting process is already done through admissions, right? Academically. So it really rolls into them wanting, the faculty wanting young people that are excited about project-based and working with their hands, because I think they'll bring a better solution to problems and what that looks like. So I've got some stuff for that, and that's all free. Teacher training's free, the curriculum's free, and the CAD is free, and they can also earn to level 1, level 2 CAD certifications on that as well. That Siemens will pay for, and that's all free. And so, and I've got pathways into mechanical, manufacturing engineering. I'm going to work Muhammad over for some civil. I've got already achieved CAD at Hennepin Tech, additive and digital manufacturing at Century College, pre-engineering at Century College. So I've got pathways already created for this as well. So again, you're doing great stuff on creating what we can have for project-based, and then it becomes helping us make that connection to, faculty, you want these young people in your classrooms, because if they're spending this much time working on these kinds of things, academically, the vetting process is already done by admissions. So now what you have is you have passion. Nobody can teach passion. And when you can have passion, and you can have that passion in the classroom, think through the contribution that makes to the rest of the classroom. And not only that, I think it pushes my post-secondary faculty even farther, right? Muhammad, I'm sure you enjoy having that young person in the classroom that's asking, well, what about this? And what about this? And then it turns into this conversation of, well, what do you think as a group?
I mean, yeah, without having a passion, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you cannot open, students' minds and put stuff in it. So, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, passion is a key. I mean, for successful learning.
And not only this, Chris, if you're already at the DCTC location as well, I'm going to put a little plug in there. I think the civil engineering surveying program at DCTC has an articulated agreement to the civil engineering program at Mankato, if I remember correctly. So I think there's a connection there between the two campuses on that. And so you should look at that. So there's another pathway, at least you can look towards, because I think there's an agreement already between DCTC and the civil engineering program, I believe.
Okay, I'll look into that. I mean, the college is quite a bit, so I'll start. We're starting to really. That's one of my biggest barriers is colleges are saying this is what we want, and then how do we meet those needs, and then really, because we're really, it's so many the systems are vastly different with secondary to college. and they don't play nice in the sand in some regard.
No, neither do my 2-year and my 4-year, so it's okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what do you, and I have a lot of flexibility, and that's why I keep telling them, like, I have a ton of flexibility. Like, I can manipulate my system to better suit my kiddos to go here, whereas you all are kind of stuck across the system. Like, I can manipulate mine. And every
Right.
time we get super close, there's always something that's like, oh my God, we're so close there.
Right. So the other thing to think about is very often when we have an agreement between my 2-year campus and my 4-year campus, it's going to end up being, especially into the engineering programming, you're really mostly looking at a 2+3, because it's really hard to get, unless they did a pre-engineering program. But any other program is going to be a 2+3 because of the mathematics and the physics rigor that's required for those last 2 years. And I know it's a real stinker, but I can surely see how the 4-year campuses look at it and say, I'd love to go ahead and take more, but if they don't have that physics and calculus rigor, it's hard for them to be successful in those 2 junior and senior year kind of thing. So a lot of the time you're going to be looking at that. It's unless they have another agreement or a firm agreement, most of the time I would anticipate it being a 2+3, at least in the engineering fields, engineering and engineering technology fields. Sometimes my engineering technology programs. So if Mankato had a civil engineering technology program, that might end up being a 2+2. So the difference on my engineering technology compared to engineering, pure engineering, is basically the amount of math. Math and physics. So a little bit less.
So I guess question for you all then, how are you kind of navigating some, because a lot of our students are coming in now because of the dynamic of the secondary schools over the past 3 years, and the students having huge gaps in their learning. And we're finding that, I mean, my kiddos that are coming in, and not even with a lot of the kiddos, they're junior year, senior year, but logistically they're academically at a freshman or an 8th grade level based on the past 2 years of all that lost learning. How are you all kind of balancing that new arrival to campus where they haven't gotten the full gamut of what they normally would have experienced in a seat-based world up until this point? So what does that look like on your end? Because I know I have a lot of kiddos that want a lot of these things, but they're lacking in that foundational academic pieces to be able to make that jump.
I'll let you speak to that, Mohammed. I think you'll have.
Well, basically, I mean, once we review, I mean, students' records. So if we feel there is a gap anywhere, so usually, I mean, we recommend that they take some additional classes. And usually it's semester? At most the second semester, they should be, ready, to move on. So, I mean, they will continue to move on from the beginning, but if we feel there is like something missing here or there, so usually, we just ask the students to take some courses, and that should be it.
I have heard of some programming, which I think it would be hard to do at some academic institutions, where they actually start the kids out a month before school starts, and it turns into like a prep. And that's basically a month prep in preparation for that engineering experience, making sure that everybody's rolling in at the same math level, maybe get everybody in a rhythm. But me as a student, I think I'd blow my mind out if I had to go a month early before classes even started. But I have heard some institutions being very successful with that. Are there any in the state of Minnesota that I'm aware of? No, I'm not aware of any in the state of Minnesota, but it would be a clever way. We have talked about that with regards to, really as institutions, our goal is to also ensure that your young people are successful and retained, right? So if we can get them better into a landing spot coming into the institution, maybe that ends up being a month or a couple of weeks ahead of time of programming and that kind of thing. So,
and I know we've been that would be considered like a squeeze class for us, where we're blending a couple different levels together to get them kind of what they need.
It'd be really interesting is what would that look like coming from the secondary level in under the guidance of a post-secondary instructor on the creation of something like that for your students? Completely different, right? Now you're looking at, you don't know what academic institution they're going to go to, but if they can all get on the same plane under the guidance of a post-secondary educator, they might have the summer off, but at least when they roll into the fall, they truly are in where they need to be, or something like that. I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's thinking differently. Trying to get universities to change and try to get two-year institutions to change is difficult. It's always a challenge with that and making that go. But if you push it from your side, what does that look like? Just trying to think outside the box of what does it look differently and how can it look differently?
And that's kind of like what we're constantly looking at through our CTEs and all these other pieces of like, what can we give them and other supports that they're not coming in with? And that's one of our biggest barriers is the kiddos, even with our CTE classes, are not coming in with the foundational levels to be able to continue through it at the rate that in which it was developed.
Right.
Because I mean, really some of ours are looking for those certifications and pieces like that. And just to get them through that certification test is because we don't know, right? The same way as you all don't know who's walking in that door other than whatever records and testing and those pieces, you get a blank snapshot of them. We're kind of in the same boat, even though secondary schools collect a crap ton of data.
Right.
The way mine is set up is because they're enrolling into my system and still staying in their main, the main schools don't like to share some of that data.
Right.
They don't like to, so we're coming in with having to figure it out. And, and even though we're year-long programs, 2-year-long programs, it takes months to get that scope and sequence of where are they coming in with, and how do we give them separate supports outside of that piece of it so they stay on track.
Have you leveraged? Are you familiar with Skills USA?
Yes, that is through we do run parts of that through our CTE. My mechatronics teacher so I have a mechatronics teacher that runs mechatronics. And does like networking, like a lot of computer pieces of it. So
Yep.
he's using that as well. And then I know our construction trade teacher was also used that piece of it.
Okay, because there's a lot of different avenues there as a student organization that's available. And boy, you talk about expanding your CTE quick, because structure's already there and assessments done by industry. On all the competitions. Well, doesn't that reinforce what industry is trying to show? And then that alignment, then when they walk into their post-secondary experience, they've already got that industry connection to it. Because again, the assessments are done by industry.
Right.
So
and I'm trying to get those are the connections we're also trying to make too, right? It's easier for the college, the secondary, they don't look at us as that source, but I think they're now starting to turn their heads our way because they know we're the funnel to get the kiddo. They need to make that sales
All right, as promised, we're popping back and joining each other again. You know what? If anybody needs to kind of take a break or stretch their legs or do any of that fun stuff, we have been at it for an hour already. So go ahead and maybe if you want to take a quick 5 minutes break. And then what I'd love to do is just kind of chat with each other. We're a small enough group that we kind of get to maybe a chance to chat as a larger group. Maybe a little bit about what you shared or what you took away from your small group or the 5 pillars. So I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes to kind of just do their thing. So we'll come back as a group at 11:30. All right, if you can hear my voice, it's time to think about wandering back to your home here in front of your computer on this beautiful fall day. As I mentioned, I would love to kind of after the breakout rooms, we kind of came back, took a little bit of break. I'd love to chat with everybody a little bit about what they got out of their breakout room. Is there something that you took away or something that you just want to share? Maybe it wasn't part of the breakout room, something that you want to just chat about or share when it comes to maybe one of the 5 pillars, something that spoke to you. I had some good conversation in my group.
Well, we had great conversation.
Mhm.
I had Chris Devine and Dr. Yemen, and here's an environment in which there was conversation and questions that were asked about even connection for post-secondary and secondary. So it was what I loved about was it was 10 minutes of asking, well, how do you think of this, and how do I get my kids lined up for this, and what are you experiencing with this? So I guess the meeting, we didn't really talk about the pillars, but I think we did talk about the things that are important that maybe they don't get a chance to visit with, right? So I thought it was really great, and a lot of it, centered around a lot of that project-based learning as well, as far as what they want to do at the high school level, but then how does that translate into post-secondary, and what did post-secondary, how have they been dealing with some of the challenges of what COVID affected, right? So I thought those conversations were great. It wasn't specifically towards the pillars, but you know what, where else can a conversation like this happen at? And as long as it's fruitful, I'm not here to judge on anything past that. So that's kind of what we had. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. I know that my group, I think we lost one from my group, but Dustin and Rob, I still see both of you. Dustin, you kind of had a neat perspective, being full-time industry and then doing some kind of coaching for robotics on the side.
Yeah, my perspective here is coming at it from a coach of a robotics team at a high school. Other than that, I'm not really involved with the educational system, but I like to know what opportunities are out there for my students. And it was interesting to learn what Rob does in his program, just to know that exists, and that's a place for students to go as they pursue higher education, and just what opportunities are out there for them in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that was huge. I agree. It was fun chatting with Rob a little bit about Twin Cities engineering and the different approach to some of that curriculum. Maybe Rob, I'll have you chat about that for a second, because I think it's worth sharing with the group.
Yeah, so our program is an extended campus of Minnesota State University Mankato. We believe the best way to learn is by doing, which strongly connects to the 5 pillars that you talked about. And so we work by engaging with industry to create meaningful projects that add value to our industry partners. And then we work to contextualize design, professional, and technical learning to those projects. And we see a lot of success from those efforts. There's a lot of peer learning that happens. There's a lot of struggling. One of the great things about it is that I don't feel like I am the barrier to my students' success. So often in my education, I felt like I had to convince the instructor that I was worthy. In this case, it is a team of us that's working to overcome challenges associated with a project. They're not fighting me, we are fighting together against the project. And that's a very powerful shift in thinking.
No, it very much is. No, I appreciate you sharing that, Rob. So those of you that aren't familiar with Twin Cities engineering, a student comes in with their generals or their 2 years done, and they kind of focus solely on the engineering curriculum as part of a co-op. Is that how you'd say that, Rob?
So there's a couple different flavors of it. But at a high level, when they come into Twin Cities engineering program, they do their preliminary 2 years of pre-engineering somewhere else. We physically rent space at Normandale, so we have a lot of students coming through the Normandale Community College program, but they also come from other places in the metro, and even more broadly than that, we've had some come out of state even. And then they work on the last 2 years of 4-year degree with us.
Mhm.
In our program, we have a co-op opportunity, but it's sort of one. Out of 4 semesters, we're going to do 1 co-op opportunity. Our sister program, Iron Range Engineering with the Bell model, has a program where you do 1 semester on site and then 4 semesters of project work in co-op where you're getting paid and documenting your learning on the job, as well as participating in some distance education things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I mean, having been at university 10 years, I know what it feels like to go in the hole. So I think that kind of opportunity, you know, for our students is a huge thing to think about. Wait, I can get paid in industry while getting a degree. Wow, that's fun. And then as a new mom, I shared with my group, I pay $1,200 a month in daycare, and we are losing an audience. Anybody that's a parent and wants to continue their education, how do they find the money to just pay for, you know, daycare or a roof and you know, school,
Well,
right?
I think that's a bigger challenge than just new moms. If we think about a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
communities where families are expected to support other family members in different spaces, how can we provide resources not to help an individual, but to help the community
Yeah.
such that the individual can succeed?
Yeah, right, exactly. Rashmi, I saw you earlier and now your name popped up. You were also in our group. So I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to contribute or add to the larger group, but had some cool takeaways before.
Yeah, I teach at the Northern Star Online in asynchronous environment. So our students work at different time and and I teach chemistry, biology, and environmental science. And I think we are thinking of doing project-based learning and figuring out how to do it in an asynchronous. And you gave an idea about the tool
Marco
Marco
Polo,
Polo.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I will look into this.
Yeah,
So I'm here for ideas that I can take and apply to my students'
yeah,
learning.
I love it. Absolutely. Anybody else from any other groups want to take a second and share? All right, I'm gonna kind of round out what I've got here by basically just kind of throwing some more resources at you. Okay. So I was doing a little bit of digging about entrepreneurship, and Junior Achievement is out there. They have kind of a new segment of Junior Achievement. It's called the Junior Achievement Company Program. They've got some cool opportunities for students to touch, feel, be part of entrepreneurship. There is the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. I found one that was called kidsentrepreneurship.com, and that was a bunch of free resources about how to get students from lots of different ages involved in entrepreneurship. The other thing we talked about in my small group, and I'll kind of share with everybody here, the stats I showed earlier on Junior Achievement Study was really, I think it was 60% of students are interested in starting their own business. And a lot of them felt that way because of social media influencers or celebrities. I don't know how they make their money online. I have no clue, but if I know much about social media or influencers, if they get screen time with an audience, they'd be willing to share their story, I'm guessing. So being able to bring somebody in, again, it has to be something that means something to your students. We bring a lot of speakers in over in the construction management program. And if I'm not motivated by what they're saying, I can't expect my students to be. And I have to pick a speaker that speaks to them, even though I'm a selfish individual and I want to pick a speaker that I'm also interested in. but social media influencers, I wouldn't really know the first thing about, how to find one that would be reputable to come and chat with your group, but vet them out. Even small business, local businesses, they would, I'm sure, be more than willing to come and kind of chat with you. Okay. All right. Let's see here. My next one. Resources for project-based learning. There's a ton of them, right? A lot of them. The one that I found that kind of was cool, that was just a free guide. You can kind of print it out, bring it with you on a nice, sunny fall day at the park. But that one's huge. Oops, there's a lot of workshops, either online or in person, for people looking to get started with project-based learning. And a lot of these different divisions have grants. Education Minnesota Foundation for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, they had grants for PBL. PBL, the Buck Institute, PBL Works, that's where the guide came from. They also have grants, and a lot of these grants are available in 2 different tracks. So if you're interested in one of these, it's either professional development for yourself, or once you maybe have an idea, something that you want to implement, they can give you some classroom money or grant to get that project up and off the ground. So there's money and resources out there. All right, the next one, global citizenship, UNESCO, coming from, a worldwide organization like UNESCO, they've got this free resource. Again, this resource pack, I got a lot of kind of cool information and ideas from that resource pack. Explore and educate others on their cultures. So I am Norwegian. We make lefse. My grandma was first generation. How do we get students interested in talking about that? And do they even know? If you ask my husband, his last name is Heilig. You think he's one nationality? They did a test. He's not at all that nationality. So he had to start over with who he thought he was and the research involved in some of that. So, what kind of projects can we, encompass or ask students to kind of create and share what speaks to them, right? Before I brought up, investigate your lunch or being at the grocery store and finding a million places where my food comes from, something like local produce coming from all over the globe, getting your students to think about that. Like, wait, well, I can go to the apple orchard down the road, but when I buy at the grocery store, they have local, and then they have some from, different countries. And what does that mean? What does it look like? If you spent the day in a life of an apple traveling, like, what does that mean? How many stops do they touch? What kind of resources do they take up to get here? I think that type of thing is pretty huge. And thinking about the person that maybe originally harvested them, right? Pen pals, field trips, virtual tours, those things are huge. I never had a pen pal growing up, and I really feel like I missed out. I've got friends that have boxes full of pen pal stuff that really helped them to kind of add humanity to population maybe across the globe from them. Right. I have a picture of the Mona Lisa here. If you've ever seen it in person, she's disappointingly small. It's a very small painting. But when I talk about those virtual tours, there are a lot of virtual tours, and I'll actually have that as another resource on another page, but you can do a lot of these things virtually. And I think one of the things that really helps to do, it can help those with accessibility issues to really be involved in multiple ways. So, and again, grants, Fulbright Teacher Exchange and the NEA Global Learningship Fellowship. The top one is just what it sounds like, an exchange, with whatever host country is looking to do the swap. NEA Global Learning Fellowship, it actually is a chance for you to embed yourself in another culture, not necessarily teaching, but then take that culture back into your own classroom and help share those stories with your students. So a couple of really cool opportunities there. Engaging industry, job shadowing, internships, field trips, bringing speakers in. I've got a link on a virtual tour here that I actually created, and I'm going to have to do a new share. So I think you can see a 3D scan on your paper or on your page? So there are a really kind of like the Mona Lisa, that was a resource to get students out and about. I've got here actually a 360 scan that I took of a reading center project over in Rochester. And it's just, again, another way for us to think about how we can engage industry. This one was kind of cool. Students get to kind of walk around in it, learn a little bit about different stages of construction. So that one's kind of fun. I also have a couple other options that I'm going to share with you here. But again, kind of tracking down regional products. So we deal a lot with concrete in construction. I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't know what concrete is, right? Take a walk to the nearest sidewalk. It's something that is relatable, whether you are a very young learner or a seasoned learner. But where does the materials that go into concrete come from, right? How far are we sourcing some of those products? I think that is, it kind of gets you touching on not only your engaging industry, but could it be part of another, and are you thinking about service learning? Where does concrete come from? How do you, if you learn about concrete and then you find some local sidewalks that maybe need replacing, is there a volunteer organization that you can kind of couple with? Mentor match, both regional and international. I actually looked around and I didn't find mentor match for K-12. I found a lot of mentor match for post-secondary, and I'm not sure if anybody knows of a good mentor match that might be for younger learners. If you do, maybe pop that into the chat for all of us, because I didn't find anything, and that could actually be kind of a cool opportunity out there. Websites, the real world learning network, that had a lot more to do with outside learning opportunities, and how you engage industry in actual natural environment. Da Vinci Real World, Pathful Connect. These are a couple of resources that would help incorporate practical applications in subject areas such as math, science, and writing. So kind of a cool look there. This last, the last one there, sorry, I clicked off of it a little bit quick here. I showed you a virtual tour of a construction site. If you look up virtual tours, you will be amazed, especially, I think that's one of the gifts that COVID gave us. It really escalated a lot of what we can do virtually. So Scientific Drilling International has a virtual tour. I went around this hydroelectric plant yesterday in my spare time and was just fascinated by the crazy amount of buildings and steps along the way. So if there's something, again, when we think about engaging industry, there can be so many ways to do it. And I would suggest we all have a lot to do, right? Start with the low-hanging fruit, and maybe the low-hanging fruit is getting them, they're already on their devices, right? Can you get them on their devices thinking about, oh, wait, I can actually tour a hydroelectric dam or a plant? Like, that's pretty cool. All right, next one, some resources for service learning. When I think about service learning, I actually, you could partner with a local nonprofit, a community resource park, historic building, things like that. There's a historic house over in St. Peter, Minnesota, that some of our students at the university were going to volunteer with. They needed just, they were hosting a sale. They're also thinking about doing some historic restoration over there. So there's always some really cool things for students to think about for service learning. I'm not going to take time now to pull it up, but this one here at the bottom, it says Minnesota Department of Education, Minnesota Service Learning Project Collection. That was a really cool group of project ideas. It's actually a PDF if you go out to the internet and search for it. It's a PDF of everything from kindergartners doing projects, comparing their elementary library to the library in their town. They went and interviewed librarians. They started to think like how they're alike, how they're different. They learned how books are manufactured. They really kind of went through a lot of different learning modules, but that that PDF, again, Minnesota Service Learning Project Collection, really goes through everything from kindergarten to 12th grade examples here in the state of service learning that they have incorporated inside of their day-to-day. So it's kind of cool. Learn and Serve America, grant opportunities, Corporation for National and Community Service, another grant opportunity. So there's plenty of, and there's even local organizations that you could reach out to. I know that we have just a handful here in our own town that might be willing to offer some resources for service learning. All right, those are my 5. My last one, again, my Mary Green bus, the bus picture I showed, that again is one that I want to actually fly back to that. I'm gonna make you busy or dizzy for a second, but that Mary Green Marvel, if I had my way, I would drive the Mary Green Marvel across the US, combining groups of people and embedding them into different communities to learn about whatever, nothing brings us together. Nothing brings us together like maybe a natural disaster, unfortunately, but there's always got to be a silver lining to some of those things. But this bus does service learning kind of across the US. And like I said, if I get an opportunity to hop on that bus, you can also, this is the kind of thing that they can tailor a program to you. I think it costs between like 60 and $100 per person, and they will take you wherever they have agreed to take you and to work into different communities, but it's very customizable. If you're looking for a way to interact with your students, maybe over the summertime, things like that, where they can get out into the community. This was kind of one that I want to kind of leave you with today. I don't want to steal any more of your time. We've got just a few minutes left. I did want to end a little bit early, just in case anybody wanted to kind of continue to chat afterwards. I would love to be a resource to anybody that's looking to just bounce ideas off of each other, right? That's part of what really engages me as an educator, is connecting with all of you. So again, I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourselves and the differences that you are making inside the classroom to make tomorrow a little bit better through our students. So thank you for being part of the day. Appreciate it.
Dr. Rue, I want to thank you very much